Welcome to Carl DeGregorio's Desk Session 43. A big learning curve or a big emotional minefield that I have encountered. My original plan when I spoke on 42, this is 43. When I spoke on 42, it was the eve. It was the day before this reading, which is the purpose of the accountability to myself vlog or whatever this is. The desk sessions were to get things off my desk, i.e. this one-man show, and maybe eventually other projects. And what's happened is the plan was to do almost like a split screen of before and after. And I was just tired, to be honest. I was wiped out from the massive amounts of effort to put the reading together. And I just didn't have the energy to put down 43 in sort of that immediate afterglow, to sort of show a contrast, to see if there was any differences, to see if the sort of light bulb went off. And it did. It's just I don't have it here for you. And that's just what it is. And I guess, you kind of got to stick to your plans. And so now we are 7 days, a week away from that where I was yesterday. And if I look at my clock, I am almost about to begin. So let's start the Desk Session 43 with a sort of recap. And I am actually, again, reminded of what this is. That if any of these, you would spell your shit right, you would probably try to fix syntax if you were a columnist. So I have to get my energy right, which is taking some effort today. And I am going to have to see if I can channel some of the wonder of last week. And then I will bring back kind of why it's an effort without belaboring it too much, and reminding myself about task-oriented practices. You know what I mean? So my biggest concern going into a reading was my lunch cheese board, which was mostly ignored, but well appreciated. And I wanted to be the kind of person who wasn't just not offering anything other than please look at me and listen to me. And I was fortunate that I picked a very good cross section of people. Everybody knew me, and a couple people knew me less. But I know I spoke about, you kind of want a room full of strangers too, kind of that focus group energy, which eventually will happen. But in these very when an infant's lungs and immune system are not strong, you don't expose them to strangers or even very many people. And so that's sort of my thinking with these first readings, is you do want, a close group. They can be spread out over different worlds in your life, and they can know you, and not mostly the key is I just wanted some people who did know the stories and some who didn't. And I had that. And I had 20 somethings all the way up to my age. So, I shut down in the first page and a half. It was a bust. Not because of anything that went wrong, not because of anything that was brought to bear, but because my mind was, and because maybe there was a technical decision or a writing decision that I made, and it was a very disorienting beginning for them and for me. But that's the point of the show, is that it's you and me, crowd and performer. And I left them out on an island, and then I was out on an island, because without giving it away, I started in a character. No, hello, how are you? Please take your seats, or, hopefully a more artful version of that. I had none of that. I thought the idea was being more like cinematic, and boom, hit him with a character, and then say, hey, this is what it was like when I was doing this character. And I think, and the feedback was that it was a little bit of a rough start. But what was really going through my head is I was, this close, and only the person who knew me through rehearsals and knew me and who was running camera, my buddy, and, he helped me basically produce this reading. He was running camera and he was running sound and following along in the script. And he could tell it was tanking, and I guess only he knew. And I was like, a fighter have you seen like when fighters get knocked out, even when they're going down and they're unconscious, they're still counter punching because their 10,000 hours trains you to, like, when you get hit, you bob, you weave, you slip, and then you throw and you counter. I was sort of that kind of, knowing it was going down, I was still saying the words, I was still stressing syllables, I was still doing the bit, but it was going poorly. And then I turned a page and I'm like, fuck, 30 pages more for these people and for me to get through, and this is going to be a long day. And man, what a fucking disaster. And then, which I even mentioned in the show, that first laugh, we've all heard that from comics. The idea is to get, you start strong and end strong, you got to get that first laugh out of the way, which is why you don't do the new stuff, at the top. And a lot of these lessons were refreshed only in hindsight, and it wasn't stand-up. I was sitting with the music stand. I had, it was a nice studio vibe, carpeting, comfortable chairs, gray walls, very kind of antiseptic. I had a TV monitor that mirrored the computer so we could throw up some visual aids that normally or better, hopefully, will be behind me in a performance space. And so, rocky start. But it wasn't nerves. It was just this sort of shutdown thing. And that, then once I got that first laugh, and then sort of finally I had to I really needed to stop and catch my breath. I was like flatlining up there. And like I said, I even say it wasn't until I started telling them that I know what I'm doing. I've performed in so many different venues for so long since I was a kid. This shouldn't be daunting, and yet it was, because this is my thing. This is my script. This is my story. This is my all of that shit was really, I guess I was hammered. I was just a ball peen hammer on some aluminum. Just I was pounding myself with pressure and issues of perfectionism, I suppose. But the first laugh came, and then I settled down, and I just remembered to breathe, and then. The first sound cue, the first bit, and it all started to work, and the kindly people I had invited were starting to vibe and interact, and I remembered that we were all in a room, and I remembered that I didn't have to motor through it, even though I did, and it took off. It took off, and it felt great, and I got through it, and there were some tears down the cheeks, and at the end, and kind of exactly what I wanted. And then it was we had to have a little feedback session, and that feedback was very strong and very rewarding, and I wrote a lot of notes, and some of them were great suggestions, and I kept it as disciplined as I could and asked them questions rather than just having people running feedback. But inevitably people were riffing and coming up with good stuff, and it's usually very overwhelming, and it needs to be sort of processed before anything goes. But the takeaway is I have to ease into it a little bit more. And my big concern was length, and that's not necessarily an issue. I asked what could be cut. They couldn't really think of anything. It's a play, and my biggest fear was it not being interesting, and it's, according to this sample size, it was 7 people. This boat can float, and that's a great feeling, and I left there very energized. Another good indicator is I invited everybody out to lunch after on me, and everybody came except for the one person who had to go to work. And I would think the dissonance of hating the fuck out of it and then still sitting there running. They would have been, I'd love to, but I can't. Everybody bit on the free lunch, but maybe that was more of it, and maybe they're more duplicitous. I doubt that, but I think it was a good sign that nobody begged off lunch. And we talked a little bit more about it and had a good time. And then I've been processing some of the feedback and already putting some of it into play. And the hardest part was there was a video. Thank goodness, although it sucks for the sort of full aspect of it, we didn't get the first 5 minutes. We started the tape late, but that would have been me seeing the brutal truth of being hemmed up in your own toxic bouillabaisse, of insecurity. And at least I didn't get to see that, but I could see the remnants because I was it's just very helpful. And this is why you do need a director. It's why you do need an acting coach, not for technique, not to know what you're doing, but to make sure that everything's aligned. You'd be surprised how you're wearing the mask of stress when you're trying to tell a story of joy, and that throws the audience off. It also makes them have a harder time hearing things. A lot of feedback was, you didn't say this, but I did. And it's because the magic of this will be because a one-man show is pretty much always treading on similar territories of confessional, memoir-ish kind of things. I got through tough times type of things. So I'm not going to be able to reinvent the wheel. The way they become transcendent, in my opinion, is that thing, the acting part. And I was just trying to not overstay my welcome, not hold space. And, and that's a metaphor for a lot of the way maybe some of us live, myself included, that, you're trying to get it in, say something funny, but when the people have the confidence to take their time to set the table, to tell the story. My least favorite thing about people telling a story is literally when they say, "Oh, I got this great story. I have a great story about that," and then they proceed to tell you a very bad story. I'm aware of that. I can't handle the hostage situation of poor storytelling or center of attention type of people, probably because I believe in my egocentric mind that I deserve and or command that, and it's hard for me to be on the listening end. But I did have a lot of that insecurity of, are they going to get out and get up and metaphorically, are they going to, there's a famous play called Mass Appeal. There was a play, I forget who played the priest. It's about a priest. And the movie version has Jack Lemmon as the older priest. And Jelko Ivanovic, I think is how you pronounce his name, is the young priest. And I don't know who played it on Broadway, but in Mass Appeal, the priest says when you start to hear the coughs, that's when you know your sermon, which is your monologue, which is your one-man show portion of the eulogy, or the liturgy of the church, when he does his little off the dome. Today we're going to reflect on Mark 2012, which is a Rush album, I think. But the point is, that part is where he gets to do his own two-step on the sermon part of it. That's where the priest gets to rock the mic. It's a lot more interesting in Baptist church, let's just say that, than it is in a Catholic church. But he says when you hear the people coughing, clearing their throats, that's when you know your shit's bombing. And so I was aware of that and trying to keep the tendril of tension between entertaining rate of speech and the clock, all of which then watching the video was working against me, not for me, because if I had just let things hang, pause, and then I asked her to dance is a lot different and then I asked her to dance, right? So the acting 101 stuff and the performance stuff, I think would alleviate 80% of the notes they had, because I just wasn't selling and I wasn't connecting and I wasn't reliving the stories. I was just trying to get this fucker out one time to please tell me it's worthy, and then I can relax. And I hope I wasn't straining that tension too much, but that's where it was at, and I was rewarded. And so if I had seen you right after or the day after, I had a vibe for a few days. I had a great vibe. I had a certitude, a feeling of, we got something here. I could start moving quickly to a fuller production, putting this out there. And I am not deterred from that. I will do that. And thinking about Edinburgh and taking it there and thinking about, all getting ahead of myself a bit. But I know that being on its feet and being performed and staged rather than just read will enhance. And I can't wait for that. And the bad news, or the other shoe dropping, is in the haste to take care of props and going to Staples and printing and sound cues and all the technical stagecrafty stuff, even with a reading, which is a part of my insistence on how you do everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. So you rent a place that's nice and comfortable and professional, which has restrooms, which has parking. You take care of that stuff even at this level. And I think that at least just shows you a little bit of craft. And so, but in that, I guess, haste and feeling back to normal a little bit with my ankle, I may have strained. There was a serious flight of stairs that I was unable to navigate, which is a pretty tough test of where you're at physically. I could get up and down it, but I needed to I needed both hands. I needed to spread eagle my arms I needed both banisters, and I couldn't do it quickly, and I think I strained my foot. And now in therapy I've been limping, and this freaks me out. And because without getting into it, it's a debate in my mind. Is this a stress-related injury, or is it just finally catching up to me that I've been favoring this foot? Is it a setback of months, or is it just, et cetera, et cetera? I have to, figure out what I'm doing at work, if they will hold my spot. Do I even care? All of these things are wrapped up into this new injury and this sort of getting this true thing that I care about done before I turn into a pumpkin, or until the party's over, as it were, because I've been working harder on everything, and including this, and writing and producing things and physical therapy. I have not been on vacation as I've been injured. I've been living, but I've been living with the intention of healing and artistry, and that's been really rewarding, and auditioning, and all this to say, what is most important is that if I were, and I maybe was probably not ready for it, but if I was able to walk from left to right to demarcate memories, because a lot of it is told in a randomized timeline, not trying to be Tarantino-esque, but it's out of order, because I don't know, I just like a flow, and it's just like, here's a story. A lot of that stuff will be clearer with me walking from here to here. If there's a table and a chairs, that would be a location. You can do that on stage like you can do in a movie. It's locations are spots on stage, or locations are different color lights, or and I'll be able to do that. And I want to expand and be physical and be able to walk around and do dance sequences, and that was impossible. And if I'm not able to act on my feet, then I'm probably not able to work in a restaurant. So that much is true, and that's what freaks me out for both, to be honest. Because what am I really here to do? And it's to be physically fit, fight through injury, and be able to use my body for what I need it for, and not least of which is this performance. And so I guess And I just don't like the timing of it. Something good happening and then maybe something bad. So I don't want to belabor it. And I'm not in pain. It's just like I'm having a hard time walking. So I've taken too much time with that. And on with the good things. But also, in this age, The Bear is a great show. It's back, and it's a moody show, and it talks about the restaurant business, which is a business I've spent too much time in. And I wonder if my mood is exacerbated by the moodiness of the show. But the point to make is, it would have been better if I had done 43 as a bookend, meaning, hey, I'm going to go do the show. Cut to 43. Hey, I just did the show. It was fantastic. I'm so fired up. I can't wait to take this feedback and bring it to the next level and get it up on its feet. I can't wait. And you would get the before and after. And what I did was I stayed on schedule, and I didn't stick to this sort of new little riff of a plan, which was to make this sort of a back-to-backer. And I think a lot of these lauded shows, The Sopranos was very famous for this. There'd be 3 years off between seasons, and this is before the advent of binging. And so a lot of things are victimized by the way they're viewed, by the... people forget that editing is not made faster by digitizing. It's made less laborious. But, and I guess in an essence, it does speed it along to use digital editing rather than splicing film and using the moviola. I do think it does speed it up, but it doesn't speed it up enough that the person who's never edited something doesn't understand it's not that much faster, because it's all about the watching, the timing, the trying it, running it, and looking at it, seeing how you can improve it. It's having the right take. It's still going to be painstaking. And so while we're binging things, and while the promise of AI is instantaneous stuff, and the prompts will get this stuff out, if we're going to watch something as great as The Bear, you have to have the talent has to be available. They have to get on sets. The scripts have to be written. Everything has to come together for these people to be in these scenes at the same time. And I would say some of The Bear this season, not to be critical because it's an amazing artifact and a piece of art, I think a lot of it had to do with schedules of these actors who are busier than they were now that the show has made them stars, right? And I'm not saying there's anything similar to me sitting at a desk talking to my laptop in terms of process. But what I'm saying is if their purpose was to keep writing this dope show and just have it out maybe every year, and then have it once a week where they could sort of develop it and have 3 out and then write the 4th one, something about that linear model in some cases gives the writers, the production, a chance to catch their breath, to track the story. But the binge model is to feed the need, a consumer need, rather than being an artist and having your vision played out. And what I did by waiting a week to do what would have been a to be continued episode, and to keep it as a 2-banger, I've just stuck with my linear thing. So this is belying what I'm saying. It might be the problem with The Bear, but some melancholy has come over me, and I think that show harbors that as its DNA, and there are similarities that and there are pangs of relating to the restaurant industry, the pangs of the Italian Americanness of it. There are elements that are very speak to me specifically, and many millions because it's a hit. But it does affect my mood, and as I just don't want to be so played like a piano that it's as clear as something good happened, and now you must feel like crap. And that is a scary thing to know, if it's true. It's a scary thing to feel, because it's as if joy is the more dangerous emotion for me. And I know one of the best notes I got from someone in the crowd of these people was that they really enjoyed how available I was to sharing moments of joy and joy in the story. And I think that might be what's missing in some other one-man shows that are serious. I want joy to be on stage. I want a good feeling to be had. And I want to portray those feelings. I want more of those feelings in my life. And as I face going back to work in a restaurant, which at its best, when you're physically fit, is a rough gig, it's tough. It's tough to think about it. And not being able to, put distance between me and that business has been a recurrent theme. And so I just want to be sure that I am back to, I guess I got to find out what my next reading will be. And not even a reading. I think the best chance for this to work is to do a as close to a production as I can for an audience of people we can call from, maybe a room full of strangers, just really. And I have to remember as we wind this up that I have been relieved of the core insecurity, which is this any good? And that doesn't mean opinions won't vary. It just means that I know now I'm not barking up the wrong tree. And I thank those people who are in the room. They know who they are. And I thank you for the kind feedback. And maybe I will seek some more, or I will just sort of do as I see fit, which is what most artists do, unless they're writing by committee. But I just want to remember that, and I think this is where practice and motivation and meditation and sticking with the desk session, while it would have been better for product to have the happy face after the before and after, and then maybe still do this. That's probably what should have happened. It's just that I know now that I have this appointment to keep. And if I'm really gonna, when you're facing forward and lighting your face, inevitably, true feelings have to be tempered with the idea that it should be somewhat aesthetically pleasing, not me particularly, but the sound quality is better than it would be on just a phone or on Zoom or whatever. But you wouldn't want to have seen some of the railings in my ranting and raving in the last few days as things have gotten on top of me, which makes me, when I present here, a lot of people might call it phony, but it is sort of the practice of these meditations, of these disciplines, is you can have those down moments, those down days, even voice them, even have, like an emotional relapse, which is what it feels like to me sometimes. But if you're going to be about it, if you're going to, as close as you can, mean what you say in these vlogs and in these desk sessions, it helps to sit down on Saturday and then, try to apply axioms or try to apply some of the things you've learned, your personal insights. They're not, and I'm not saying I feel much better, to be honest. I'm just saying that you have to present forwardly and try to, it's not fake it till you make it. It's like if you, it's basically do as I do, not as I say, or it's a little confusing even for me, but I can't come on here in a bad mood. I'm sure you can glean an energy shift, or you can glean through content that I'm, pondering a little bit, or a little bit reflexive, a little bit ruminating. And ultimately that our business here was to talk about the one-man show, and it went well. And while it may not be the tone and the way it's delivered, that is the good news. And the good news is that the return of Otis Redding is on its way. And if I'm going to be about the things I say I'm about, then it's a good news to share. And I got to see it through. And in the log line, which may change, and which my producer friend rightly said that wasn't really necessary to share at the reading. That's for the free newspaper that's going to feature your show when you produce it. That's for the program, and I'm not married to it, even though I love it as a log line. It's not literal either. It's like a coaxing to the book, coaxing to the show, but it's still about the questions, the question, and not to give a spoiler on the bear, the question of whether chasing this elusive dream, what the cost is. And if you don't define the cost, then it could be, is it too much to pay? Or is it just, because the way I felt that last Saturday, that day, it felt worth it. And I got to live in that as far as this project is concerned. So, but I think that's what keeps the show out of the realm of egotism, which of course it is, but it keeps it out of the realm of storytelling only, and puts it in the realm of every night it questions, am I staying in, or am I, folding my cards? And that's hard to say out loud to an audience, because it's get rich or die trying, which is sort of the way I've lived my life. Not in the 50 Cent way, but in that it's got to be this or it's nothing. But that's a heavy thing. That's a heavy thing. The older you get, and when your body betrays you, and you work physical gigs. So before I spiral in front of you, I want to say thanks again. And this has been helpful, whether it's been properly displayed or not. And this is Session 43. Keep on rocking in the free world. Peace.